Monsters have prowled human imagination since we first gathered around firelight, and their shapes tell us more about ourselves than about any actual beast. Tonight we explore the monsters of myth, terrifying creatures, and the symbolism they carry. This is not merely a parade of fangs and claws. It is a map of fear, desire, and the moral codes that bound ancient peoples and still bind us today. Imagine a dark sea, waves hissing against a rocky shore, and from the depths rises the Leviathan. In Hebrew scripture and later medieval bestiaries, Leviathan is a vast sea serpent, unstoppable and devouring. But its terror is symbolic. The abyss is chaos, the ocean as the unknown. Societies cast their anxieties about disorder into the image of a monstrous sea. Leviathan becomes a cautionary emblem of forces so overwhelming they require divine or sovereign control. To confront the Leviathan in a myth is to assert the human need for order over the unpredictable. Shift inland to caverns and forests where the Minotaur waits, half man, half bull, locked in a labyrinth. Born of a curse and confined by architecture, the Minotaur represents the monstrous aspects of human nature, born from violence and unnatural unions. The labyrinth itself is symbolic, an inner psyche, complicated and threatening. The hero who navigates it does more than slay a creature, he navigates the self. The Minotaur myth thus frames monstrosity as something both external and internal, a problem solved by intellect as much as by strength. In colder climates, the Wendigo stalks. From Algonquian folklore, it is a gaunt figure, ravenous and insatiable, a person transformed by cannibalism into an embodiment of unchecked hunger. The Wendigo carries a moral lesson wrapped in horror. Greed and gluttony corrupt the soul. In the harsh environments where food was scarce, the Wendigo myth policed social behavior, warning that survival must not erode the norms that bind a community. It is a monster that enforces restraint by promising a fate worse than death, eternal, famished existence. Consider the vampire, an undying seducer who drains life to sustain its own. From Eastern European folktales to modern pop culture, the vampire fuses sexuality, disease, and social anxiety. In eras shaped by plague and strict moral codes, the vampire embodied threats to the body politic and to proper intimacy. Feeding at night, crossing thresholds, preying on kin, these traits made the vampire a mirror for fears about contagion and transgression. Yet its immortality also reflects a paradoxical desire: the refusal to die, even at the expense of humanity. Dragons appear in almost every culture, but their symbolism shifts. In Western tales, dragons hoard treasure and burn villages. They test knights' valor and greed. In East Asian traditions, dragons are often benevolent, symbols of power, water, and imperial authority. This divergence reveals cultural priorities. The West's fear of consuming greed and chaos, the East's reverence for cosmic harmony and auspicious power. The dragon's dual nature shows how a single monstrous form can be refashioned into opposing moral lessons. Finally, monsters can be created by social fears. Witches, golems, or the monstrous other. They can be scapegoats, projecting anxieties about outsiders, technology, or changing gender roles. Whether a phantom, a hybrid beast, or a creeping disease, the monster functions as an explanation and a warning. Monsters terrify because they strip away the ordinary, but they also instruct. They externalize our darkest impulses, enforce community values, and dramatize ethical dilemmas. To study them is to read a culture's margins, where fears are given teeth and claws. In the end, the true horror is not always the monster itself, but what it reveals about us, our limits, our taboos, and our hunger for stories that make sense of the unknown. The monsters live in myth, but their shadows fall across our lives, reminding us that every fear can be transformed into a lesson.